It's the 4th of June 2013, the eve of the World Environment Day, and the first day the historic solar eclipse was recorded in China nearly 3,000 years ago.
In this day, the Kenyan Airports Authority denies reports that its officials refused to grant former Prime Minister Raila Odinga access to VIP lounge.
Instead, the Kenya Airports Authority claims that the former PM had wanted his motorcade to drive all the way to the aircraft, a preserve of the president and selected dignitaries.
Also in our newscast, the government lays the foundation for the implementation of its free laptops for all Standard 1 pupils project by sealing a deal on the training of teachers.
Well, these are some of the stories we've lined up for you, but first the highlights.
We must respect our leaders, whether they are current or they are former. But
when we do get to certain stations in life, there are privileges we enjoy. If we lose those stations, we also lose the privileges.
Is he a VIP or not? Blame game over airport incident.
Defending the veterans, lawyers clash over beneficiaries lists.
You know the feeling of you're trapped in a body that doesn't belong to you?
The transgender dilemma, why Audrey is not giving up.
And how things work, our brand new feature on KTN Prime.
Good evening and welcome to KTN Prime. I'm Betty Kyalo.
And I'm James Smart.
Well, we begin at the airport tonight, and it is about that story of the alleged mistreatment of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga by airport officials. The Kenya Airports Authority now claims that Raila had wanted his motorcade to be allowed all the way to the runway, but ODM leaders are demanding nothing short of an apology from the government.
Well, KTN, Sam Ogina begins our coverage with a saga that has raised new questions about that special place called the VIP Lounge at the airport.
Kisumu, the former Prime Minister, was the VIP at this school function at the invitation of the German sponsors. But back in Nairobi, a blame game ensued over the incident in which he was allegedly denied access to the VIP lounge here at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. His party ODM is enraged.
They are trying to intimidate the Prime Minister, and in the process, it's a process they want to intimidate the Kenyan people.
we must respect our leaders, whether they are current or they are former.
You have sat on stones. You have sat in the sun. What is this bloody VIP? If they don't want, that is the property of Kenyans. It is not the property of one Kimeme.
But the Kenya Airports Authority says nothing of the sort happened. KAA in a statement says in part, quote, the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga and his wife Aida were allowed access and the use of the government VIP lounge on Monday and last Friday respectively, end of quote. The authority, however, says the only access the former PM was denied was that of the airside with his motorcade. The government insists this privilege is reserved only for the President of Kenya, visiting heads of states, and the Deputy President of Kenya.
When we do get to certain stations in life, there are privileges we enjoy. If we lose those stations, we also lose the privileges. It's a little unfortunate, that those are the rules. And remember, rules are made for man, not man made for rules.
In the past, this is how things were for Raila Odinga at the airport, his motorcade going all the way to the aircraft. In fact, a few months to the election, he chose the VIP lounge at the airport to parade his latest title, a doctorate. According to government protocol, there are 3 clusters of VIPs. That is, the President of Kenya and visiting heads of states, whose VIP lounge is the State Pavilion. Deputy President of Kenya and retired heads of states who are hosted at the VIP Lounge 3, and then there are ambassadors and government guests who use the government VIP Lounge. The Foreign Affairs Ministry is in charge of protocol in all VIP lounges and determines who can access the facilities. The airport drama is expected to feature in Parliament Thursday when the government side tables a comprehensive response to the VIP lounge deal against the CORD leader. Samugina, KTN, Nairobi.
Now, even as the government denied reports of mistreating the former Prime Minister as he flew back from Kisumu tonight and departed for South Africa, Raila was still unable to access the government VIP lounge and had to use the normal passengers' departure lounge. However, it was not clear if the former PM had opted not to use the VIP lounge or he was prevented by the Kenya Airports Authority officials. Well, that story leads us to a big question tonight, and we ask, do you think there is an attempt to undermine the former Prime Minister? We'll send your yes or no response to the brief comment to the number 8040, and we'll sample your views during this newscast and give you the poll results at the tail end of this live news bulletin. Let's now move over to matters education. It is not clear what President Uhuru Kenyatta thinks about the airport saga, but he has been busy today trying to fulfill one of his key pledges on the campaign trail. We're now joined by reporter Asha Mwilu, who's coming to us live from our I&M studio. Asha, bring us to speed with the project.
Well, Betty, we do understand, we remember the campaign period and President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto had one of these key pledges that was to bring free laptops to class 1 students across the country. And he actually promised that 100 days after his inauguration, every standard 1 pupil would have a laptop on their desk. It seems now the president is really taking this project seriously. He's handling it himself. He's not really putting it to the Ministry of Education for the nitty-gritty details. Today he did meet with the president of Microsoft Global, and they sealed a deal that will see teachers countrywide be trained on how to use computers. But now we've learned that teachers also have a demand of their own, that they're saying, a very valid demand. They're saying that they also need laptops to be able to teach their pupils. And we went to Nyeri County just to see what teachers there have to say about this new move by the government to train teachers countrywide on how to use computers. Here's the report.
It's a typical Tuesday afternoon at the DEB Muslim Primary School in Nyeri County. Teresa Gitonga has her class 4 pupils engrossed in her science lesson. She's hoping that those she will be teaching in another 4 years will be computer literate, having benefited from the government laptop project. At least that's the hope harbored by most schools countrywide. President Uhuru Kenyatta seems to know this well, but his 100-day deadline of implementing the free laptops program is lapsing fast, and he is on overdrive, sealing deals on ICT. Earlier in the day, he met Jean-Philippe Courtois, Microsoft Global's president. The computer software giant is now offering the government technical help in training teachers countrywide. Music to the ears of the president, who hopes to roll out the ambitious project by January next year. For teachers like Teresa, the training will be helpful, but her colleagues say they will also need laptops of their own to be able to teach the pupils.
Kwa mambo hii ya kompyuta, sisi kama walimu tuko tayari, tumegojea hapa shuleni, watoto ndio waelefuke kabisa kwa kutumia kompyuta.
It's very, very positive, and we have appreciated that. And it's a very good idea so that at least even the teachers, those who have not gone through that kind of training, they can have a chance also to familiarize themselves.
Yeah, we are very much ready, very ready. Even if it is tomorrow, they should tell us to go to class. We are ready. Personally, I'm very much ready for that.
I believe the work of the children will become easier, even for the teachers will become easier, because now it's going to be digital instead of using much of the books.
Training teachers, however, will be the first hurdle for the government. The Ministry of Education is unclear on whether the program will be implemented in phases or in one go. But here and elsewhere, the pupils are waiting to click away. Ashamwelu, KTN, Nairobi.
There you go, just the inception stage of that big project that the government is undertaking. James Matt, back to you in studio.
Well, thank you very much, Ashamwelu, coming to us from our city center studios. Now, to another of the president's headaches, and that is Somalia. Families of Kenyans held in hostage in that country are appealing for his government to do what it takes to get them back home. Now, at least 6 Kenyans are being held by Al-Shabaab militia following the invasion of that country by Kenyan troops. Najma Ismail reports on that unending pain.
In the Somali capital of Mogadishu, more troops are arriving in an attempt to secure the war-torn country. This latest group is from Sierra Leone. They will join Kenyan troops in the south.
Jubaland it will be controlled by KDF and Sierra Leone. So these new soldiers will be deployed in that area to augment the forces there. So their work is to go and consolidate the achievements already achieved on the ground.
But that increased security is yet to bring joy to Kenyan families whose loved ones are still missing, having been kidnapped by Al-Shabaab in the ongoing war. In Eldoret, the family of Mullah Edward Yese, a district officer who is believed to be held hostage by the militia, remains hopeful. Edward went missing following an attack in Wajir last year in which 7 police officers were killed.
There are 6 families. We came together as families of the hostages, the 6 hostages. We sent our agent to Somalia, and we still believe that we will ensure that our people come back home.
Edward Yese's family members are not the only ones agonizing about their loved ones. The wife and family of one of the 2 administration police officers who were abducted a week ago wants the government to confirm the latest reports and at least give them details of the whereabouts of their son. Frederick Churchill and Joseph Wambugu were taken hostage after a cross-border raid by the militia, and the 2 are believed to have been the 2 Kenyan hostages who were paraded by the Al-Shabaab group over the weekend in Somalia in front of hundreds of area residents. To date, it is still not clear how many Kenyans are being held hostage by the Al-Shabaab group in Somalia. Reports suggest that at least 6 are missing, although it is feared that the number of those kidnapped could be higher. Najma Ismail, KTN.
Elsewhere, the British government is set to make what it described as a big announcement on the Mau Mau compensation saga on Thursday. But even before the details are clear, scores of lawyers have kicked off a vicious scramble for the money.
Where the law firms have drafted lists of alleged veterans numbering over 8,000. But as Catherine Omanto reports, the campaigners who helped in filing the case are baffled by the gold rush.
Wambugu Wanyingi, Paolo Nzili and Jane Modhoni stand as the faces of what has seemed as a David versus Goliath battle. On June 23, 2009, these Mau Mau war veterans embarked on a journey, hoping to push the British government to pay for the atrocities inflicted on them during the struggle for independence. With the help of a British law firm, Lay Day and Mau Mau War Veteran Association and the Kenya Human Rights Commission, they have put up a spirited fight that a few months ago saw a judge allow the case to go to full trial.
Our approach with our solicitors in London, Lay Day, has been two-pronged. The first approach was to pursue this case through the normal court processes and procedures. And the second approach was to engage the British government in negotiations.
The British government has opted to settle the matter out of court, and everyone wants in.
But what we don't want them to do is to confuse the public, especially the Mau Mau. The current negotiations talks and whatever is before the courts in London has been brought either by tandem law or GT law, because that's not the correct position.
Miller and Company advocates on behalf of Tandem Law in the UK have compiled a list of over 8,000 former Mau Mau fighters who are their clients. British firm GT Law solicitors working with the local law firm Rabala and Company Advocates has also furnished LSK with their client list of over 700 ex-Mau Mau fighters. However, there is only one case currently that is on the verge of yielding any compensation.
We don't have any problem with any other law firm, GT Law, Tandem Law, bringing similar cases to court and acting for the other groups of Mau Mau who chose not to work with us from the very beginning.
The financial compensation is expected to be quite a substantial amount. However, here's the catch. The British government will not compensate just anyone claiming to be a Mau Mau veteran. It will compensate those within the Mau Mau War Veteran Association after it has expert verification that these individuals were indeed tortured. Catherine Omwando, KTN.
All right, and now to The Hague, and the International Criminal Court has sought to clarify that it is only the commencement and portions of the trial in the case against Deputy President William Ruto and radio broadcaster Joshua Arap Sang that may be held in Kenya or Tanzania, and not a full trial.
The recommendation to have the court sit outside The Hague in the Ruto and Sang trial was made to the president of the court by judges handling the case. The request to move the cases from The Hague and had been made by defense teams. In January, the decision on whether or not to conduct the trial outside The Hague will be made in due course by the ICC judges in a plenary session and has to be carried by 2/3 majority.
Where the trial for Ruto and Sang is set to commence on the 10th of September this year.
Well, moving on here in Kenya, it's not a closed case yet for the MP's quest for higher pay. Suba legislator John Mbadi is seeking to move a motion that would drastically slash the budgets of the constitutional commissions, including the one that sought to reduce MP salaries.
Well, the move is received as retaliation by the MPs who have rejected the new pay set by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission.
I ask myself, for example, Mr. Speaker, and when the chairman brings this report, I expect him to include why should we, for example, have 3 security officers for a commissioner who may not even be spotted when he walks along the streets of Nairobi. And Mr. Speaker, why should we have a huge budget and advertisement to give Commission on Implementation of the Constitution, chaired by Charles Nyachai, to communicate? Is it not easier and cheaper to write a letter to Parliament, and if he wants publicity, he can present it to the media, invite all the media houses?
And a reminder to our big question tonight, we ask, do you think there is an attempt to undermine the former Prime Minister? We'll send your yes or no response with a brief comment to the number 8040, and Smart and I will sample your views during this newscast and give you the poll results at the tail end of this live news bulletin.
You're watching KTN Prime, and just ahead,
county governments put to task over expenditure ahead of the 2013-2014 budget estimates. Joy Dorin-Vera with this and more in business.
welcome back. You're watching KTN Prime. We have more.
Now, a few days ago, we brought you the story of Audrey Mbogwa, a 26-year-old Kenyan who was brought up as a boy but now wants to be recognized as a woman. Audrey, who was initially known as Andrew Mbogwa, spoke to KTN's Wilkis Sinyabwa earlier today on what she sees as a fight for the rights of unique persons like herself. Here now is her story that has sparked a whole new debate on human rights.
Audrey Mbugua spent most of her life feeling like an outsider. She thought it was an awkward phase that would pass, but everything came into sharp focus when she turned 19.
You know, the feeling of you're trapped in a body that doesn't belong to you.
And thus began a series of firsts.
I remember the first time I plaited my hair, you know. My parents were so furious, you know, so furious. People want you to be this so that they'll be comfortable with you.
Audrey was thrust into the limelight when she sought to compel the Kenyan National Examination Council to alter the names in her education certificates to reflect her new identity. Transgender is a term that refers to individuals who vary from culturally acknowledged gender roles, but the word transgender does not imply any specific sexual orientation, and transgender people may identify as heterosexual, homosexual, or bisexual.
Sex is innate, is inborn. You're born with it. And then gender, it's sociological. It comes from the society. It's learned. Yeah, it's not innate. And then heterosexuality is where they have the types of the sexes.
In 2005, an American professor, Lynn Conway, embarked on a study in the United States that found that 1 in 500 males is likely to be transgender. However, sex reassignment is a costly affair that requires several surgical procedures, including chest reconstruction or augmentation, genital reconstruction, and in some cases, facial reconstruction. How far a person is willing to go is dependent on his or her needs. The earliest identified recipient of male-to-female sex reassignment surgery was Dora R., who had himself castrated in 1921.
Need to take hormones, there's counseling. Then after a number of years, like 2 or so, you get the surgery, you know.
In the United States, those who complete the transition can, in most cases, take on full legal status as women, updating their birth certificates, being able to marry men and to adopt children. In Kenya, however, the transgender community continues to fight for acknowledgement. Wilkes Anabwa, KTN.
All right, you're watching KTN Prime. Time for Betty and I to take a short break, leave the stage for the one and only Bonnie Tunya to update you on business.
Indeed, see you in a short while.
Good evening and many thanks for watching KTN. This is your day's business report. My name is Bonnie Tunya. Now, the county governments are being put to task over the nature of expenditure they intend to incur in the 2013-2014 financial year. Now, some counties have been noted to have set aside as much as 100 million shillings for entertainment and workshops, begging the question, where are their priorities?
The average Kenyan pays 30% of their gross income to the state as tax. They also pay a further 16% consumption levy or value-added tax, all of which goes to state coffers and are used in national development. Under the new constitution, the national government is expected to devolve at least 15% of national revenue to county governments so as to fund grassroots development. It is this that puts the county governments on the spot, with focus narrowing on how they will manage these funds.
From the budgets, you can see the way prioritization has been done in terms of financing the various budget lines. You realize that a lot of resources go to non-priority areas.
Some of these counties have prioritized non-essential events such as putting up headquarters without factoring in crucial facilities that citizens need, like access to clean water, hospitals and roads.
I'm concerned that certain counties have just left out water provision. You look at the amounts allocated for roads, it's not that sufficient and adequate, and we know the problems we have with the maintenance of roads, especially now after we've had heavy rains which have destroyed so many roads.
Experts also argue that county governments must pace their developments if they want to become competitive and achieve progress.
They've got to run their counties as a business. And they've got to attract investors into their county, because it is only by attracting the investors into the county to make investments that they're going to generate economic activity that is going to result in more happening in the county.
The bottom line remains that counties must be kept on tab and on track for development. Kenyans must therefore play their role to ensure that taxpayer funds are not wasted on trivial pursuits.
Adelaide Chongole, KTN Business Today.
Moving on, the World Bank will, over the next 3 years, have Kenya's devolution agenda on its radar as a key agenda. According to the new country manager, Diari Gaye, the institution will be all out to help the country cement devolution currently taking shape. Noting that Kenya will need a stronger framework to succeed in this scope, the new country manager added that prudent management of resources will be crucial at both national and county levels. Gaye says focus for the bank will be initially on strengthening the capacities for the 47 counties. The bank's agenda will also touch on reviewing its engagement with Kenya on development issues. Last year, the bank allocated $794 million, or just about 67 billion shillings, while this year's allocation so far stands at $300 million, if you like, 25.5 billion shillings. And also, close to 300 employees of the Kenya Petroleum Refinery Limited face uncertain future after the government's decision to cut its losses, citing quitting the refining business and transforming the facility into a receipt terminal. Now, this basically means that storage facility is what this will be turned into, of products that will be acquired from elsewhere. Now, this will happen as most of the employees of the facilities are likely to go home. The Ministry of Energy said it will soon embark on working out the modalities of strengthening the employee, sorting out the debts owed to financiers, and converting the facilities at KPRL to be able to store refined petroleum products. However, Indian giant Esa Energy insisted that it is still premature to talk about closure of the facility and sending employees home, as there is still options available. Now, the company that holds a 50% stake in the Changamwe-based refinery, with the other 50% held by the Kenyan government, is still confident that KPRL can be turned around within the planned $100 or $1 billion modernization budget. Now, this is despite increased pessimism from across the board about the viability of the refinery plant. Right, and that's just about all the business for tonight. But before I leave you with the market numbers on Financial Markets Review. Good night. Welcome back. Tonight, KTN does it again, going the extra mile to bring you not only the most comprehensive news, but also the most informative features. Tonight, my co-anchor Betty Kialo debuts her first episode of How Things Work, a fascinating introduction to the inner workings of day-to-day technologies. Ever wondered how planes work? Find out next in this premiere episode of How Things Work.
Air travel is exploding. Millions of people, thousands of aircrafts in the air every single day. Aviation has evolved from luxurious experiences to a convenient mode of transport. But what goes on behind the scenes? We're currently flying 35,000 feet. Tonight, we tell you how planes work.
The second greatest thrill in the world is flying. The first is landing.
Air journeys all start with a pre-flight check, or what pilots like to call setting up.
Concept for the Embraer, most of the switches are in 12 o'clock, if not all of them. This one is on, but once the engines come on, then it will go back to 12 o'clock. So all of them, and the ones that are switches like this ones, it should be in with no light. So when you push it out, a light illuminates telling you it's not in the normal position.
As he finishes with setting up, Captain Marco War goes round the aircraft, checking for any cause of concern that may include leaks. Back in the cabin crew is also gearing up for the flight. The flight passer who is in charge of the cabin crew receives information on different aspects of the flight that include the number of passengers expected, if there are any passengers with special needs, just to name a few. This is what happens when you're waiting to board the plane. When everything is ready, passengers begin settling in, and in a few minutes, with all procedures followed, all doors tightly closed, the captain and his first officer are ready to take on the sky.
When the engines are started, this is what you use to add thrust or reduce thrust as required. So basically when you add thrust, the jet engine produces, it spools up, which sucks in air and it is compressed. After being compressed, it's introduced, some fuel is introduced in the mixture and ignition, and it burns. As it burns, it goes out as exhaust. And that moment of it going out produces a forward moment for the aircraft to push it to go forward. For an aircraft to fly, there is something called forces of flight, or principles of flight. There is different forces acting on an aircraft for it to fly. There is lift, weight, drag, and thrust. So thrust is what acts laterally on the aircraft to push the aircraft forward. And drag is the price you pay for thrust, basically. Because as you move, the air moving on the body of the aircraft creates the drag through the friction that it has with the aircraft surface, basically. Lift is created with the shape of the aircraft wing. Basically, it's shaped in such a way that the camber on top is different from the one at the bottom. So basically, it's a bit rounded. So for the air particles moving across the camber on top and below, the ones on top move at a faster speed than the ones below. So it creates a differential pressure, which creates now lift. So those two forces, lift and thrust, get you up and forward.
To feed the enormous jet engines is no easy feat. Air transport companies have to part with millions of dollars annually. Maintenance and service also come at a cost, and a big one for that matter. While airborne, anything could go wrong, from extreme changes in the weather to fires. However, Captain Samir tells me that the aircraft is designed to handle most emergency situations. There are enough warnings before something goes wrong.
Every time you go, you build a competency, a skill to deal with maybe an engine fire or an engine failure or things like that. So like I said, with experience, you basically learn how to deal with these things, and it's human. Of course, when I have an engine fire or a failure, doesn't mean I don't get, I don't get not scared. Yeah, of course, I will be concerned, but I have to bear in mind that, I have 100 plus passengers in the back, plus my crew and my co-pilot. We need to work together and make sure we get the aircraft safely on the ground.
This is an aircraft simulator. It is here that pilots are trained to deal with emergency situations, from engine fires to weather phenomenon like thunderstorms, in preparation to become qualified pilots. Aircrafts, just like cars, often need repairs and service. It is here in the hangar that the huge jets come for attention, from changing of destroyed blades due to bird strikes to changing of the landing gears, you name it, it's all done here. Something that caught my eye while at the hangar was this, the Tag Master. You have probably seen them while at the airport. These are used to drag aircrafts from the hangar where they are parked to the ramp where passengers board the planes. It might look small compared to the aircrafts, but the tug master can pull up to 400 tons of weight, including the Boeing 777. Air travel is changing from technology to piloting. Every day in the air warrants for new information, new techniques on how to take off and to land.
If you have an incident, or maybe you don't do a very good landing, you will go home not feeling good until you redeem yourself the next time you come and you try and do a better job.
And this is how planes work. Betty Callow, How Things Work.
Right, welcome to KTN Sports Today. I am Nicholas Mudimba. The KCB Mobi Bank Rally set for Nakuru this weekend will be run on a private land. The battle and rivalry between top drivers Balev Chaga, Carl Tundo and Ian Duncan will be renewed. 55 drivers will do battle in that rally. The fourth round of the National Rally Championship will offer another interesting battle to the drivers trying to widen the gap with others with different motives. Series leader Balev Chaga will face off second placed Ian Duncan and Carl Flash Tundo, who both have 140 points. Drivers will be applying different strategies in the event to beat the stiff competition, which has been witnessed since the first round in Kajiado.
Obviously, every rally driver is striving for a win, but in the back of our minds, the championship is really the big thing. Have a good finish in that so that we can progress next year.
Air Leasing Services Limited are back to enhance the safety during the running of all the KNRC competitions in the current season through the provision of a safety and evacuation helicopter. The all-ladies crew will also renew the rivalry in the Rift Valley.
I'd like to encourage more ladies to come on board. It's really exciting, and we hope to see you in Nakuru.
The rally starts at the Nakuru Industrial Area, and Gichaya Farm will provide the 26-kilometer competitive Section 1. The Super Eagles of Nigeria coach Stephen Keshi has warned his galaxy of stars to narrate Kenya's Harambee Stars at their own peril. Keshi feels Kenya has managed to groom its own stars and expects a difficult match tomorrow at the Kasarani Stadium.
This was reminiscent of the Kenya-Nigeria Twitter war between Kenya and Nigeria even before locking horns in Kalabalas match during the first leg tie. A match which ended in a 1-1 draw. The chance went into overdrive even as the Super Eagles trained under closed doors at the Moi Sports Center, Kasarani. Less than 24 hours after jetting into the country from Germany in the dead of the night, Chelsea's Victor Moses, who is nursing an injury, was the only absentee, with Victor Onyama's teammate at Celtic, Efe Ambrose, likely to line up against the Stars keep on Wednesday. John Obi Mikel, also of Chelsea, leads the African champions. Akeji Stephen Keshi feels Kenya's come of age and could give them a run for the money, going by the first leg outing.
But we have, 4 teams in this group? So the pressure should be spread around. It's everybody. Kenya have pressure, they want to win. Malawi wants to win. Namibia wants to win. So it's all pressure around.
Tilan Oguta, who played against the Super Eagles in a 1-1 draw in 1997, is upbeat that Adel Amrushe's charges could cause one of the biggest upsets in African football at Kasarani.
Nina matumaini wa Kenya wangependelea tusherekee na kusherekea yetu kubwa kama wanamchezo nini sisi kama wachezaji tupatie wa Kenya ushindi.
Sitaki kujipatia pressure yoyote. Nataka tu nime-relax, nifike kwa game na imani sita let down.
Kesh is banking on his experienced players to deliver in Nairobi against a resilient Harambee Stars side, who will be lacking the talisman Dennis Oliech and the ever-reliable goalkeeper Arnold Origi. Kenya lies bottom of the group on 2 points, with Eagles leading the group on 5 points, and Wednesday's results could determine the fate of the group. The stakes for this match are so high that the President Uhuru Kenyatta and his Deputy William Ruto expected into the match, and have pledged 3 million shillings for a win, with Nairobi's Mike Sonko pledging 1 million to the team. The African champions, the Super Eagles, at a field of the Moi Sports Center Kasarani grounds with their coach Stephen Keshi insisting that tomorrow's match is a 50-50 for both teams. Reporting for KTN from the Moi Sports Center Kasarani, I'm Hassan Juma.
We'll keep you updated from 1 p.m. in the game that starts exactly 4 p.m. at the Kasarani Stadium. Finally, the newly appointed chairman of the sports stadia, Ben Musheni, has promised to change the face of sports facilities in the country for the better. Stalled projects in the country will be the top priority before starting new ones, as promised by the Jubilee government.
As the chairman of the sports stadia, which has been taken over because of the new act to become Sports Kenya. That means it's not a matter of facilities, it's a matter of all the sports. It's coming out by me studying what has happened and why we are not where we are supposed to be, because we are not there yet. At the same time, my own personal opinion and my own take is that despite concentrating on the big sports, on the big stadiums and the big facilities, the what I call Mungedo stadiums, whereby people just sit in every little shopping center, and where the talent came from, if you look at Ziwani, if you look at Karoreni, if you look at Dagoretti, if you look at all these small places, that's where the talent comes from.
KTN Sports Today, in association with Guinness.
He believes a man's name finds its meaning not in what he says, but in what he does. A name that is made of more.
KTN Weather Forecast brought to you by Morteen Doom Parget.
It'll be stand to defend Africa. To fight malaria.
And just before we go to the big question, I must congratulate my co-anchor on how it works. Very good job.
Thank you very much.
I must tell you, the optimist that decided to make a plane must be congratulated. Also, the pessimist who decided to come up with parachutes.
Must be.
Congratulations also. So how it works next week, the parachute.
It's a date. I hope you learned something. A bit of physics there.
The thrust.
I hope you also learned something from how it works. Thank you very much for the feedback. And of course, you can also tell me what you'd want me to feature on how things work. You can tweet me. You can text us at 8040.
And it's tweet at Betty Callo or at KTN Kenya. Yes. We'll be happy to receive that and tell you exactly how it works. For now, though, this is how it works. We ask you tonight on, do you think there's an attempt to undermine the former Prime Minister? And we asked you to send your answers, brief yes or no, to the number 8040. Here's how you polled so far.
All right, 55% said yes, and 45% said no. 55 yes, 45 no, split almost
right in the middle. That's a developing story indeed. We will keep at it. Thank you very much for your company. We do appreciate your time, and we do appreciate you texting in and tweeting in. Thank you very much. My name is James Smith. Sleep well.
And I'm Betty Callo. Enjoy the rest of your view.